It was a calm Saturday morning in a quiet neighborhood just outside San Diego. The sun was just rising, casting a warm golden hue across the sidewalks. Families were starting their weekend routines. Dog walkers with leashes in hand, joggers, pacing by with earbuds in, and a few early risers heading to grab coffee. Among them was a man named Marcus Turner, a tall, calm, and composed African-American in his early 30s. He drove a clean, dark SUV and had just pulled into a grocery store parking lot. He wore simple gym clothes, nothing flashy, and carried himself with a kind of quiet confidence that only comes from years of intense discipline. What nobody around him knew was that Marcus wasn't just another guy picking up breakfast supplies. He was an active-duty Navy SEAL, recently returned from deployment. Marcus parked at the far end of the lot, away from the crowded entrance. As he stepped out of his vehicle, he stretched lightly, adjusting his hoodie. His plan was simple: grab a few items for brunch and head back home before the store got too busy. But fate had something else in store for him. Just 2 parking spots away, a luxury white sedan whipped into the lot at an aggressive angle. The car screeched slightly as it stopped, and from inside stepped a couple, a man and a woman, both in their late 40s. The man wore a flashy watch, sunglasses, and had a permanent scowl etched on his face. The woman had her phone in hand, scrolling rapidly, her lips pursed tightly. They seemed tense, impatient, and already annoyed at something, or someone. As Marcus calmly closed his car door and began walking toward the store, the woman suddenly raised her voice. "Excuse me," she shouted sharply. "Are you serious right now?" Marcus turned, confused. "Sorry." "You took our parking spot," the man barked, stepping closer, his face twisted in irritation. "We were turning in and you just swooped in like it was yours." Marcus blinked. He hadn't noticed anyone waiting. The lot was mostly empty, with plenty of spaces available. "Sir, I didn't see anyone waiting. The spot was open," the man scoffed, taking another aggressive step forward. "Typical. Of course you didn't see us." The air shifted. Marcus stayed calm, but his posture subtly changed. His shoulders squared, his hands remained open and low. Years of military training had taught him how to read body language, and this man was gearing up for confrontation. "Look, I'm not trying to argue. There are plenty of other spots," Marcus replied evenly, pointing to several open ones nearby. The woman snapped, "Don't talk down to us. We know your type. Thinking you can do whatever you want and nobody will call you out on it." Marcus's jaw clenched slightly, not from fear, but restraint. He'd faced more dangerous situations overseas than most people could imagine. But here, in his own country, on a peaceful morning, he was being confronted and insulted over a parking space. And the underlying tension in their voices hinted at something far uglier than just frustration. Within seconds, the man shoved Marcus's shoulder roughly. "You people always act like you own the place," he sneered. The shove was light, by Marcus's standards, but symbolic. A line had been crossed. Across the lot, a few bystanders noticed. An older woman with her grocery cart slowed her walk. A teenager with headphones paused his music. A mother pulling her toddler from the back seat watched, unsure whether to intervene or pretend not to see. Marcus stood still, breathing slowly. He didn't raise his voice, didn't retaliate. He just looked at the man directly and said, "You should stop right now, walk away." That calm voice, the steady tone, it rattled the couple. They didn't know it, but they were trying to intimidate someone who'd spent years in war zones, who'd trained to disarm threats silently, quickly, and effectively. But Marcus didn't need violence to assert himself. His presence alone was enough, at least it should have been. But the woman, furious now, pulled out her phone and began recording. "This man just attacked us," she yelled dramatically. "He got in our face. We feel threatened." Marcus was stunned, not by the phone, but by the lie. Before he could respond, the man grabbed Marcus's arm, trying to pull him backward. That was it. The situation had escalated, not because Marcus wanted it to, but because they were forcing it to. Still, Marcus didn't hit back. He didn't shove. He stepped back, calmly removed the man's hand, and said one more time, "I'm not here." to fight you. But this is going to end badly for you if you don't stop. And then a car horn blared. A black sedan pulled up near them, stopping quickly. The driver's door swung open and a woman in a military uniform stepped out. She was mid-40s, with sharp eyes and a commanding presence. Her name was Commander Lisa Granger, and she wasn't just anyone. Lisa happened to be Marcus's superior officer. She'd seen the confrontation from across the street as she pulled into the lot and immediately recognized what was going on. She knew Marcus, knew his patience, his restraint, and the kind of man he was. And she could already tell this couple had no idea who they were messing with. But before she could reach them, the situation took another turn. The man, still holding his phone now, suddenly tripped over his own foot while trying to get in Marcus's face again, and fell backward, hitting the pavement hard. The woman gasped, immediately shouting, "He attacked him!" He knocked him down. The few witnesses who had been watching were now alert. One of them, the teenage boy with the headphones, was already recording the scene. Another man who had parked nearby walked over and said, "I saw the whole thing. That guy just fell. Nobody touched him." The woman's face turned pale. The tide was shifting. The cameras were rolling and their lies weren't sticking. And just as Lisa reached the scene, badge visible, military hat in hand, she said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Marcus, you okay?" "Yes, ma'am," he replied with a calm nod. The couple stared at her, confused. "Who are you?" the woman demanded. Lisa didn't answer right away. She took a long look at both of them, then simply said, "You just tried to frame and provoke a decorated Navy SEAL, one of the finest we have, and you did it on camera, in front of witnesses." Their faces fell, everything stopped, and that was just the beginning. Meanwhile, on a crowded city bus 20 miles away, an entirely different story was unfolding, one that seemed unrelated, but was destined to intersect in the most unexpected way. A young black teenager named Elijah sat near the back of the bus. His clothes were simple but neat, a hoodie, backpack slung over one shoulder, and a book in his lap. He looked out the window, lost in thought. School was out for the summer, and he was on his way to visit his grandmother in the next town over. The bus was full. People stood in the aisles, holding onto metal bars, swaying with each bump in the road. As the bus slowed at the next stop, a visibly pregnant white woman stepped aboard, her hand resting on her lower back. She looked around, hoping for a place to sit, but every seat was taken. Nobody moved. Without hesitation, Elijah stood up. "Ma'am, you can take my seat." The woman smiled with relief. "Thank you, sweetheart. That's very kind of you." She sat down slowly, catching her breath. The act was simple, small even, but it mattered. A few moments later, as Elijah prepared to get off at his stop, the woman gently tapped his arm and slipped him a folded note. "Please open this later," she said softly. He nodded, smiled, and walked off the bus, unaware that the message in that note would change everything in his life. Forever. 2 different people. 2 different moments. But the same truth echoed. Between them, respect, kindness, and the unexpected power of doing the right thing, even when nobody's watching. And what happened next? Well, let's just say karma was just getting started. Marcus stood still as the weight of Commander Granger's words settled over the parking lot. The man, still on the ground, slowly picked himself up, brushing at his pants like it would cover up the embarrassment. The woman, now silent, clutched her phone but didn't record anymore. The shift in energy was sharp. It was no longer just a public argument over a parking spot. It was now a moment caught on camera, witnessed by bystanders, and complicated by the realization that the man they had just tried to humiliate was someone with honor, discipline, and a career built on service and sacrifice. Lisa stepped between Marcus and the couple, calm but firm. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her tone alone was enough to remind everyone that she wasn't just a military officer. She was someone who demanded respect. "You two might want to reconsider the story you're telling," she said, eyes narrowing on the couple. "Because from what I just saw, and what at least 3 cameras recorded, this man didn't touch either of you. The man opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Instead, he glanced nervously at the small crowd now gathering. People whispered. A store clerk stood by the entrance, watching the scene with concern. Marcus remained quiet. He wasn't one to gloat, and he definitely wasn't about to make a public spectacle of the situation. But inside, he couldn't help but feel the slow, burning ache of something too familiar. Not just disrespect, but the assumption that someone like him didn't belong, couldn't possibly be someone worth respect. He had experienced worse. During deployments, had faced life-threatening situations with courage and calm. But this subtle public humiliation back home, was harder in some ways. Because here, in the country he fought for, the fight looked different. Here it came dressed as entitlement, as judgment, as whispered accusations that didn't need proof, just enough outrage to be believed. Lisa gently touched Marcus's arm. "You okay to head in?" "Yeah," he nodded, still composed. "I just needed some eggs and coffee." The line made her smile, if only slightly. Behind them, the couple slowly turned away, retreating without apology, trying to salvage what dignity they had left. But whispers followed them. Eyes followed them. And for once, the truth stood firm, on solid ground. Inside the store, Marcus moved quietly through the aisles, but his mind wasn't calm. He kept playing it back. The shove, the false accusations, the lie into the camera. If Lisa hadn't shown up, if no one had been watching, he didn't even want to imagine what direction it might have taken. And that's what unsettled him the most. Outside, as Lisa waited near the exit, she glanced over her shoulder and saw the teenager from earlier still standing by his car. He looked nervous but determined. After a few seconds, he walked over. "Ma'am," the boy said, "I recorded what happened, the whole thing. If your friend needs it or anything, I can send it." Lisa looked at him closely. "That's thoughtful. View? What's your name?" "Jalen," he replied. She nodded. "Jalen, you did a good thing today." He handed over a small slip of paper with his number scribbled on it. "In case it helps." And just like that, another thread connected, quiet but powerful. One person doing what was right, even when it wasn't easy. At the same time, across town, Elijah was sitting on the front steps of his grandmother's porch. The note the pregnant woman had given him sat in his lap, still unopened. He'd been staring at it for nearly 15 minutes. Something about it felt heavy, like it wasn't just a thank you note. There was something else inside. He could feel it. Finally, curiosity won. He unfolded it slowly, carefully. Inside was a short handwritten message. "Young man, your kindness reminded me of the world I want my child to be born into. I come from a family that believes in paying things forward. Please call this number. Someone's waiting to talk to you." Beneath the message was a name, Caroline L. Meyer, and a phone number. Elijah's eyebrows lifted. He didn't recognize the name, but something about the way it was written made his heart beat faster. Was this some kind of joke? A test? He looked at his grandmother, who was watering her plants nearby. "Grandma," he called softly. "Can I use your phone?" She handed it over with a smile. "Of course. Who are you calling?" He shrugged. "I'm not sure yet." The number rang only once before someone answered. A man's voice came on the line, calm, professional, but warm. "Hello, Elijah. We've been expecting your call." Elijah froze. How do you know my name?" The voice chuckled softly. "Let's just say Caroline told us about what happened, and she believes in rewarding good character." "What is this?" Elijah asked, confused. "You'll find out soon," the man replied. "But I'll say this, that one seat you gave may just change your life." And the line went dead. Elijah stared at the phone. This was the last thing he expected. He had no idea what it meant, but now he was hooked. Something bigger was happening, and somehow he had been pulled into it. Back at the grocery store, Marcus walked out into the light, bag of groceries in hand. He thanked Lisa again, though she brushed it off. "Just doing what's right," she said. "Same as you." But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that what happened today wasn't just about a parking spot. It was a reminder that even when you walk with discipline and honor, there are still those who will try to break you. But there are also others, strangers even, who will stand with you. And sometimes that makes all the difference. What none of them knew, not Marcus, not Lisa, not Elijah, was that the threads between them were about to pull tighter, that the events of one simple morning would ripple outward in ways none of them could yet understand. Because karma doesn't forget, and kindness doesn't fade, and justice, though slow, always finds its way. That evening, the sky over the city turned a dusky orange, the kind of quiet color that made people think of endings. But for Marcus, something was only beginning. He sat in his apartment, the lights dim, his groceries untouched on the counter. His phone lay beside him, screen blank, silent. He kept thinking about what happened in that parking lot. Not because he was scared. No, fear didn't live in Marcus. But because of how quickly things had turned, how easily the truth could have been swallowed by a lie if the wrong people had believed it. He thought about the couple, how angry they were before they even spoke a word to him, how fast they flipped the script, and how comfortable they were with pretending to be victims. He'd seen that look before, not just overseas in war zones, but here, in brief encounters. That combination of entitlement and ignorance, the way it could twist into something dangerous, and now it had a new face. His phone buzzed suddenly, pulling him out of thought. It was a message from Lisa. "Check this out. Your face is all over." Social media. But don't worry, in a good way. Marcus opened the link. It led to a video already gaining traction online. The moment from the parking lot. The teenager, Jalen, had posted it. The title was simple: Navy SEAL harassed. Over parking spot, then this happened. It had over 400,000 views in just a few hours. Marcus watched himself on the screen. Calm, collected, patient. Even as he was being provoked, he saw the man stumble, the woman's lie, Lisa's arrival, and then the comments. This man handled it like a king. Imagine trying to mess with a Navy SEAL because of a parking spot. Shout out to the woman in uniform. We need more people like her. It should have made Marcus feel vindicated. In some ways, it did. But deeper down, he knew something wasn't right, because with every view, with every comment came attention. And attention came with consequences. Some good, some not so much. The next morning, while Marcus was pouring his coffee, a knock came at the door. He opened it to find a man in plain clothes, tall and serious. He introduced himself quickly. Name's Davis. Internal Affairs. Mind if I talk? Marcus blinked. Internal Affairs for what? Officially, just some routine follow-up about the incident at the grocery store. Unofficially, someone wants this to disappear quietly, and they're asking questions about you. Marcus let him in. As Davis sat down, he leaned in slightly. You're making waves, Marcus. That video's not just trending online. It's being passed around to the higher-ups, and not everyone's happy about the attention. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I didn't ask for attention. I know. That's why I'm here. There's whispers going around. Questions about whether you're fit for duty, whether you escalated the situation. The usual. Marcus laughed under his breath. I was the one being shoved. I saw the video, you kept your cool, but not everyone's looking at it that way. Some people just want it to go away. They think you embarrassed the wrong folks. Air grew heavy between them. Just watch your back, Davis said quietly. Someone's pushing to make you the problem instead of the victim. And with that, he was gone. Across town, Elijah sat at his grandmother's kitchen table, phone in hand, staring at the contact info the woman on the bus had given him. His heart still raced when he remembered the voice on the phone. We've been expecting you. It sounded like something out of a movie, but this wasn't a movie. He finally texted the number. Hi, this is Elijah. I gave up my seat. Someone told me to reach out. Seconds later, a reply. Thank you, Elijah. Meet us tomorrow. Details below. Attached was an address, a law, office downtown. That night, Elijah couldn't sleep. He kept wondering, why him? He hadn't done anything special. just stood up and offered a seat. He didn't do it for attention, didn't expect anything back, but somehow that one act had set something in motion, something that felt bigger than him. The next day he wore his best shirt, still a little too big on him, and took the bus to the address. The building was tall, glass-walled, with a gold logo out front that said Meyer & Stone LLP. When he gave his name at the front desk, the receptionist smiled like she'd been expecting him all along. Inside the office, everything smelled like leather and wood polish. He was led to a private room where a man in a dark suit stood waiting. "Elijah," he said, smiling warmly. "I'm Andrew Meyer, Caroline's brother. She told me about your kindness." Elijah nodded awkwardly. "I didn't do anything big." "That's where you're wrong," Andrew said. "You showed humanity in a world that often forgets it. Caroline, she's a part of a foundation. We work with youth who show promise, especially those who show compassion, character, even when no one's watching." He slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents, scholarship applications, a mentorship program, travel options. Elijah blinked in shock. "This is all for me?" "It's just the beginning," Andrew said. "Caroline believes in investing in people who make the world better, and so do we." Elijah didn't know what to say. His world had shifted, and yet he was still standing on the same ground. Back in Marcus's world, the ripple effects of the viral video were growing. A local news station reached out for a live interview. Then a journalist from DC messaged him for a feature. Marcus declined most of them. He didn't want the spotlight, he just wanted peace. But peace was no longer guaranteed. One night, as he left his apartment building, he noticed a car across the street. It had been there the last 2 nights too. Same make, same spot. He couldn't see the driver clearly, just a silhouette. Watching, Marcus made a note, a habit from his training. He didn't react, didn't show concern, but he knew when something didn't feel right. Later that night, someone knocked on his door again. This time it wasn't Davis. It was Lisa. Her expression was tight, unreadable. "Marcus, we need to talk." "What is it?" "That couple, they're not who they say they are. A name came up in a file I wasn't supposed to see. There's something else going on." Marcus stared at her. "You think this wasn't random?" Lisa didn't answer directly. Instead, she handed him a flash drive. "I can't tell you more, but you need to see what's on this." And just like that, the story deepened. One man with a military past, one teen with a heart of gold, and 2 strangers who may not have just been angry people in a parking lot, but the front line of something deeper, something planned, something dangerous, and neither Marcus nor Elijah knew how far it would go. Yet,